Portugal, the P in pigs, is going to the slaughter. And the real pigs on Wall Street will soon be eating the pork. The socialist government of Portugal, led ironically by Socrates, resisted for a while, but it was futile. The de facto government of Portugal are now rating agencies and the bond markets. Last year, Goldman Sachs and New York Finance took time out of converting the world economy into a pump and dump scheme to sack small European countries. It was easy. Europe was heavily vested in worthless American mortgages, and the newer economies were further indebted with the cost of modernizing their infrastructure, education, and health systems. Ireland was an easy target. All that needed to happen there was for the government to cover bank losses in the pumped-up real estate market. Tax credits for property development had resulted in a boom in building real estate nobody needed. When the bubble burst, the government defied the will of its citizens, nationalized the bank losses, then promptly quit. Instantly, the Celtic tiger became the I in pigs. In Greece, Goldman Sachs et al. Counseled the government on concealing its debt with credit default swaps. This allowed Greece to pretend its debts were within European limits while it sold off highways, airports, and lotteries to multinational corporations. Once done with Ireland and Greece, the bankers turned their attention to Europe's third weak link, Portugal. The New York economic hitmen garroted the Portuguese economy by ratcheting up the interest rates that Portugal paid to finance its debt. Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch's were the rating agencies that rated U.S. subprime mortgage paper as AAA securities. These were the agencies that had rated Lehman Brothers a AAA investment till 3 days before it became the poster bank for moral hazard. These same agencies then downgraded the Portuguese debt, thus increasing service costs like a subprime mortgage after the teaser rate expired. Portuguese banks then got to borrow from the European Central Bank at 1% and lend to the Portuguese government at 7%, then 8%, then 9%, and finally at 10%. These banks subjected their country to usury on orders from Wall Street. The Portuguese socialist government negotiated a payment schedule and service adjustments that Brussels, Berlin, and Paris could live with. But the Portuguese right wing, like neoliberals everywhere, wanted to see that beast starved to death. They defeated the minority socialists and their Made in Portugal plan. This was the signal for the Portuguese bankers to wind up the loan sharking operation and go for the big score. These banks will now be managing the €80 billion IMF bailout. Soon, the IMF will decide in Washington what form of suffering the Portuguese people will endure. But everybody knows what it will look like. Health and education will be defunded and privatized. Consumption taxes will be raised. Public sector wages will be cut. Labor and environmental regulation will be gutted. Social programs will be eliminated. And the airports, public broadcaster, and any other publicly owned source of future revenue will be sold off to the private sector. Portugal spent 50 years under fascism. Under fascism, Portugal had the lowest literacy and the highest infant mortality rate in Western Europe. A peaceful, army-led revolution ended that nightmare in 1974. But now the Portuguese once again chafe under the iron heel. So it's probably best for them to go back even further in history for the solution this time. Before the fascists, Portugal had endured a dynasty of kings, each crazier than the next. While the French monarchy ended by guillotine, the Portuguese used an even more spectacular method. In the spirit of globalization, I modestly propose that Portuguese citizens use what's left of their splendid holiday benefits to fly to New York or Washington and revive the historical Portuguese tradition of defenestration for dealing with tyrants. Em Toronto, eu sou Humberto Silva e não Rex Murphy.